Hello, welcome to the Make It Epic Wedding podcast. This is Tim and we have Matt. How are you, mate?
Good, mate. How are you? Good to be back chatting with you again today. Excited to dive into some Q&A questions with Tim and Matt today, which we haven't done for a few weeks. So we thought we would throw that one out there, change it up a little bit, do some quick fire questions, which never turn into quick fire.
I'm pretty excited to get into it. So what do the people have for us today? So that'll be pretty interesting. Our last Q&A potty was actually awesome. Hey, we got some pretty baller questions.
Yeah, there was some heaps of in-depth ones. And today we've got a real mix of questions too, which people have asked us. And look, you can always just, to start off strong, you can always send us a message on our Instagram, makeitepic.podcast, and, ask us some questions and we can add it to our list for the next time we do a Q&A, which, obviously won't be for a little while. But yeah, we always love getting some questions thrown at us.
I love getting the range of questions too, just to showcase, what's the theme currently going on, and you kind of, I don't know, you just see trends in certain aspects as well, within the questions. I don't know, I feel like elopements and micro weddings are really coming back into light again.
Even
obviously it was pretty, it was pretty insane during COVID, but the last couple of months, it's been a lot of micro weddings and elopements, and I think a lot of that has kind of just got maybe newly engaged couples thinking about, is this actually an option for us? And I know our chat last week with Meg, that was pretty amazing, and her wedding was honestly next level. That was
so good.
The most epic micro wedding that we have ever been to. It was just so good for a number of reasons. So if you haven't listened to that podcast, go back, have a listen. We go through really what made Meg and Adrian's wedding and elopement just so epic. It was just so amazing. But let's get into it, man.
Let's dive straight in. So, as we're doing Q&A today, and people have asked us some questions, and it's a wide range of things that we're chatting about today, Tim. But look, let's start off with, I got this question from one of actually my brides that I'm shooting their wedding next year. And she said, everyone says that the day goes too quickly. What are some tips or ideas to soak it all in with your husband and wife?
Ooh,
not with your husband and wife. That was very strange. With your husband / wife,
look, it's a big one, and weddings are a hectic time. I think the biggest thing is just having a list of negotiables and non-negotiables, and actually applying this into your wedding planning. Have a little bit longer, for your portrait session, if you want to, get photos and videos done, and actually have some time to join the bridal party and your guests for canapes. I think that's a pretty good one. And a big one that we've touched on in the past before is after the portrait session, we kind of like to give you guys a little bit of time by yourself, no cameras in your face, no pressure. We'll still take some photos and videos from 100 meters away behind a tree or something. But it just gives you guys a little bit of time by yourself, just soak in the moment. And it is going to be the only time during the day, as a married couple, when you are by yourself without any interruption or without any influence from anyone else, just to enjoy that moment. So I think that's a pretty big one for me.
And I think scheduling time is perfect. That's the go-to. If you can schedule time, and if you're worried about not having the time to hang out with your husband or wife, by yourselves for, it doesn't have to be ages, but just a little bit of time. As long as you add that into your schedule, anything's possible, and you just need to probably, think about that from day one of when it comes down to talking about timelines and all that sort of stuff, is just scheduling that in.
Yeah, I find a big one is if you have your photographer, videographer, or vendor for 8 hours per se, don't just try and jam everything in just to get that coverage there, because you really don't want to make things stressful for you on the day. You want to make sure that you have time to soak up. You don't want to go rushing around doing everything, and especially if you've got a larger wedding as well. It's just things to be mindful of.
Absolutely. And I think this rolls into our next question, which I'm just going to throw in there straight away, which is how to make your wedding stress-free? Or so the question was, how do we make our wedding stress-free? And I feel like we are talking about this already, and that's
a loaded question.
It's a loaded question, and it could be a podcast by itself, like, which may be down the track. But I think, it all comes down to timing. Like, if you want to make your wedding stress-free, you need to allocate time for you to breathe. And when I mean you need to allocate time for you to breathe, I mean, like, in the big scheme of things, 30 minutes extra in a part of your day is not that big of a deal. And I think that if you're adding in that 30-minute time slot of like breathing room, so to say, and if things go wrong or out of your schedule, you've got 30 minutes up your sleeve to allow time to catch back up to itself. And you've got, and if we don't need that 30 minutes in terms of like, because something may have simply gone like a little bit out of whack in terms of the schedule, you now have 30 minutes extra to hang out with your guests, hang out with your bridal party, hang out with each other without having to be somewhere else. And, your photographer, videographer, or other vendor being like, hey, let's go. We're going to run over here.
But like, let's put this in perspective. It is your wedding. Like, it is not like a massive event where you've got event coordinators. Like, you don't want things to go like it's half an hour time slots. Like, you want things to be relaxed. Weddings do not run on time. Like, I don't think I've ever been to a wedding where they run on time. So just really have that in the back of your mind when you are planning like your per se. Like, you do not want to have, all right, 15 minutes here, got to get this done, 20 minutes there, got to get that done. Guys, like we've said it before, like it is all about your attitude. And to help with that, like just don't treat your schedule like Bible, because it is not. It is a guide. Okay, things will change. Things do happen on the day. You don't want to leave yourself short, which could potentially cause more stress for you on the day, because look, it will affect your attitude, and in return, that could potentially affect your photos and videos as well. So, like, we drive at home, like we want to keep things fun and flowy and stress-free. Have a think about the schedule. Have a think about, what is the best process here to ensure that, we can leave a little bit of room, a breathing room, and in return, stress levels dive down. No stress whatsoever. We don't want stress on your wedding day, do we?
Not at all. And, like at the end of the day, like the whole point of getting married and doing this is that you do things the way that you want to do them. And I think we have said this, I reckon we almost say this every single episode we do, because it's one of those things where we are always listening to everybody around us and everyone has their 2 cents. And I think this is like, I just want to reiterate the fact that you just need to like put your blinkers on a little bit and just remember that it's your day. You and your partner have ideas about what the day looks like. And if those ideas align with each other, and yes, they won't all align with your parents or your friends or your family that are giving you their 2 cents. But if you're doing things the way you want to do it and you're bringing joy to, like, it brings you joy, do them. Do them the way that you want to do it. It will create a stress-free environment automatically. And then, you also make sure that you prioritize the things that make you happy, i.e. maybe hanging out with your husband/wife, for a little bit longer by yourselves to be able to take it all in and not make the day feel like it's going so far.
What's some pretty, like, obviously we've done a lot of weddings, like together, collectively, and individually, like what are some of the things that like you've seen on weddings that, couples have kind of added in off the cuff, like that's maybe not on a schedule, that you thought has like raised like the vibe? Like I'll go, because I've got a pretty cool one. It was a wedding I did last month, and like the morning of, like, rock up, get there, like see how the boys are going. And like they've all got their like skateboards out, and like they went skateboarding like the day before, and the groom and the best man are like semi-pro skateboarders, like they're pretty cool. But there's like 8 skateboards there, so for everyone. And I'm like, guys, like why don't we go on the road, like, and just do a bit of like a skate sesh? And they're like, can we do that? Like, I'm like, yeah, man, like let's do it. And
just don't break yourself.
I delivered like a little video for them, and they were like, man, like this just like really set like a preface for the whole day, just to be so like fun and so stress free. And I thought that was like pretty cool. Like, and it's something that we could have discussed beforehand. Like, so if there's things that you want to include, like they don't have to be big things. Like they can be little things like going for a surf in the morning, or like going
You literally
for,
took
like,
the
a bit
words
of
out of my
skateboard.
mouth. Yeah, like, so I had literally the same thing. So when you were talking about that, I was like, a few weeks ago, I had a couple, and the groom's like mad surfer, mad keen for it, and all the groomsmen and heaps of people at the wedding were too. So they like surfed the days before, but then they also surfed the morning of. So they were like, rather than like, they all got up, did sunrise together, jumped out in the water. One of like I think the brother of the bride or something like that. He's like super good videographer when it comes to like the surf and like sports industry, and he had a housing, so they went out for a surf in the morning, they recorded it all, and yeah, it was pretty sick. There was a little bit of carnage that happened, which is pretty funny, and this is a bit of a tangent, but there's two brothers, and they one of them ran over the other one and fin chopped the crap out of his head, and he had to go and get stitches in the morning of the wedding. And they literally like were in the like down the coast, and there was like a little medical center, and they ran into the medical center and said they had to like say a bit of a lie, and said that that he was the groom for the day, and he had to get his head stitched there and there, and they stitched his head back together and glued it back together, and then luckily the way that he wore his hair, you couldn't see it, and then he just got on the liquid courage and a bit of liquid Panadol.
I reckon you have just like discouraged any bride from like telling their husband or soon to be husband to go for a surf in the morning.
Apparently this is something that happens all the time with them. Like, they always hurt. These guys like apparently are like known to hurt themselves, and like there's always stuff that goes wrong. Like, they were just like, oh yeah, this is our family luck kind of thing, which is a classic.
Wow.
But, yeah, look, I definitely think that like doing things the way you want to do them in the morning, like, you know, most of the time we're not starting until like lunchtime or after lunch, especially for the boys. Like, a lot of the time they're like, oh, what do we do? And like, you know, what do we do? Like, there's nothing for us really to do. They go and eat food, and that's about it. So I do think that starts to bring the vibe up pretty high. I was a groomsman at a wedding a couple of weeks ago, actually. And we went out for breakfast, and then we came back and played some ultimate frisbee. That was pretty fun. No one hurt themselves, so that was good. But yeah, I had a bit of like a throw around with the frisbee, and that was cool. Man, there's so many things you can do that really elevate your day and make it special.
Yeah, like, and I'm a big advocate for making it personalized, right? Like, if I have to rock up to to do prep just to, you know, like film you getting in like a suit, like, that's cool. But like, if you want to add like a little bit of you, a little bit of flavor to it, man, I am down for that.
Absolutely. Perfect.
All right. So it seems to be the theme, right? Like, how to make sure that we have enough time for all things that we want to do. So yeah, I think we've probably answered that, but that's a bit of a theme at the moment, isn't it? Like, it is the whole timing and keeping things stress free.
I feel like as a photographer, and yeah, like a videographer too, but definitely a photographer, everyone always throws us under the bus a little bit when it comes to this stuff. And they're like, you know, oh, you got to talk to your photographer about timing, and you got to do this and you got to do that. And look, yes, it is always helpful when you talk to us about, I guess, the timing. But at the end of the day, like, you're going to do things the way you want to do it. And yes, like, there's a lot that you need to fit in, but I think if you're worried about not having enough time, why? Like, what is it? What's stopping you from from that feeling of not having enough time? If you need to give yourself more space, or, you know, create more time in your schedule, like, do it from day one. And I think the thing that usually like dictates the whole entire day is your ceremony time. And if you get your ceremony time wrong, that will either make the day, usually like when I say wrong, I say that it's too late, and therefore the whole rest of the day is really rushed. If you're worried about having like not enough time, make that ceremony a little bit earlier and give yourself space to get the photos done in between the reception, and really enjoy the reception and not make it feel rushed.
That's a big one as well. Like, maybe it's just from like a video perspective. Like, I do ask couples, obviously, like months before the wedding, like, what time are you going to have your ceremony, just so we can get a good idea of like kind of the flow of the day. But sometimes I don't actually get to know the time of the ceremony until maybe 2-3 months out of the wedding, like 3-4 months after it's already been planned. Like, is this something that's the issue, right? Like, is that like sometimes couples don't reach, like, they're worried and they don't want to reach out, and then they make a time that, you know, maybe in winter, let's say use winter for example, when it gets dark at like 5:30, and if you've picked a 3:30 ceremony, like, it's tight. You're gonna it's going to be very rushed, and you don't have time to do the things you like, I guess, the way you want to do them. So, you know, like, allow that extra space. Like I say, you know, for winter, like, make a 2:00 ceremony and give yourself, like, that's 3.5 hours before it's dark.
and that's a lot. Like, that's not a long time in the wedding world. And by the time you get your ceremony and your family photos and say hello to people, like, really it only leaves like a small amount of time before it's actually going to be dark. And that's when you're doing your portraits. So summer is less stressful in terms of picking the right times for your ceremony. But
just because there's a lot more light a bit later on.
Yeah, absolutely.
So guys, like, I can speak for all vendors here, like, utilize your vendors. Ask them, confirm with them, hey, like, Tim, Matt, like, is this time like all right for the ceremony? What do you reckon? Like, we love that. We love to keep like an open communication and make sure like we can, have a part in ensuring that the day can run as smoothly as possible.
Absolutely. And I think this is rolling into the next part of like our questions, which is like expectations from us as vendors, right? Like, so one of the questions I got was like, how much communication in the lead up / how often do we touch base as vendors? And look, I think as a vendor, this is a little tip for all, if you are a wedding vendor and you're out there listening, like, it's probably good to set expectations from day one and with your couples as to how much you do reach out to them, how much you do communicate with them. For me personally, I have a pretty, already set plan and a workflow for all of my couples. I know that like the dates already that I'm going to reach out to them because my CRM, shout out to Studio Ninja, already has that already planned for me. So, and I also don't want to fill up my couples like email list, or email inbox with like all these emails that I need to send them because I actually really don't need to hear from them that much. And I know that when they book me, it might be a year and a half, 2 years in advance, right?
Yeah, for sure.
And we know that plans are changing. We know that it's ever evolving. We know that it's not perfect in day one. And like for me, I'm like, I don't need to bombard you with questions. I don't need to ask you, what time is your ceremony going to be in 2 years' time? Because it's probably not something that we're going to chat about that day, and it may change. So, yeah, look, for me personally, I'm all about setting those expectations from day one about A, what I deliver, B, how much I'm going to communicate with you, and C, how often I actually want to touch base. And when I do email you, that's when you just need to reply to those emails.
Yeah, and this is a really big one, setting those expectations as well. And so I know as soon as a couple books me, I'll have like an onboarding process. So I'll send them like a big email, let them know like kind of, thanks for booking me, like super excited, like to jump on board with your team. And like, here is when you'll hear from me. And here's like the expectations essentially on my behalf. So like I do like a vendor introduction. I'll send out an email to all their vendors, like just introducing that I'll be their like videographer for the wedding. 6 months before the wedding, I'll send an email saying like how everything's going. 3 months, I will send out like a questionnaire in terms of like determining the run sheet and like let's have a chat to kind of like figure out some times. Like I do there's an automated email like a month out just to see how everything is going, and then we book in a call just to confirm everything, run through everything, make sure it's running smoothly. But like during that onboarding process, like yes, it could be a year, 2 years. Like I think the trend at the moment is like I'm booking weddings for like late 2024 at the moment, which is pretty crazy. But like I'll send a questionnaire just to get to know them, and that kind of sets the precedence that okay, like this guy actually wants to know like our story, like Tim actually cares. So yeah, I do want to provide like value as much as I can. I think it's important that like, as a vendor, like you have an onboarding process so you can really set clear expectations to your couples. You know what? Like this is when you're going to hear from me. This is what I need from you.
Absolutely. And I have a very similar process, which I'm actually recreating a welcome pack at the moment, which also includes some timeline tips and things like that. Just making it look a little bit prettier than just a stock standard email, which is cool. So you'll get that from me. And then I also have like a page on there, which I'm including, which is like what to expect from me. And I literally set out on paper, they can read it and be like 3 months before, 2 months before, 1 month before, all the things that happen. And yeah, as I said, as long as you reply to the emails that I send you, that's all we need. Because I think at the moment, everyone is rather busy in the wedding world. Like, and it's not busy as in like Like, we're all flat out, but it's a good thing. And I think people do get semi-concerned that they're going to get lost in the crowd or something like that, which is definitely not the case.
No, not at all. And that's why we invest in our tools. Like we've spoken about this before, and like that's why having a CRM like is so important. So everything is managed, like everything, all the communication like is set in one place, and we know exactly when the communication is going to be. And like this is not to say if you have a question for us, like not to email us, right? We're not saying that at all. Like get in touch. I like DM my couples all the time. Like they send me through some questions, and like I'm more than happy to answer them. If they want to jump on a Zoom call like a year and a half out of the wedding, like sure, let's do it.
Whatever it is going to take to make your wedding better. Do you know what I mean? Like that's the thing is like, like for me personally, I know that like there's a lot of weddings coming up, and yes, we get that. And people always go to me, "Oh, I didn't want to ask you because I know you're really busy." But I'd much rather reply to an email, reply to an Instagram message, reply to or answer the phone, whatever it is, if it's going to make your day better. Like I'm not here just to shoot your wedding, or I'm not. Yes, I'm sure. Like I'm sure it's the same with other vendors, like makeup artist, hairdresser. We're not just like all of us are not just there for the day itself. We're there to help you through the process. We know the process is hectic. We are very lucky that we do this full time, and we love what we do. And we always talk me and Tim talk about weddings all the time and how we can make sure that we're delivering better quality to our clients. Far out, just reach out. Don't be scared. Like we're not here to make your day difficult.
Because it's not like you book us and then you don't hear it from us until the wedding, or a week out the wedding. That is not because that is not providing value to your couples, and that is not the business. And I know that's not the business that you want to run either. So this is why we set out the process. And I feel like my process is really good. It's simple. It sets out those expectations. But also it's not set in stone either. Like it leaves room for questions to be asked. So
absolutely. Don't be scared. Ask us questions.
All right. I think we spoke about that one for a while. But okay. What about fresh versus dried petals for confetti? The confetti toss. So I think we're specifically talking about as the bride and groom come down the aisle for the first time as a married couple. I love those shots. I really do. It just adds a bit of flair and it's pretty cool. It's
excitement, goodness. The good vibes are flowing. I look at it, and when we're talking fresh versus dried petals, there's also I'm going to throw in another one, which is the eco confetti at the moment, and I'm also going to throw in one more.
Big advocate.
Eco confetti is rad because it floats in the air, but I'm going to throw in one more because a few weeks ago we did this. So they had eco confetti, which was mad, but they also had bubbles and a lot of bubbles. So that was pretty cool. Having a bit of a mix of all the things. The bubbles gave this in the sunlight gave this really cool different effect that's quite different to the normal just confetti.
Yeah.
That was pretty fun. So I'm a big fan of that. When it comes fresh versus dry. Wow, that was bad English. Anyway, when it comes to those two options, I personally am a bigger fan of the fresh over the dried, personally.
Ooh, okay. I think I'm the opposite. Hey, I'm more a fan of the dried because the fresh is heavier, it's more expensive. And the dried, I feel it gets more airtime as well, and you get more of it.
It does, but sometimes it's really small, and that's the downside for me is that the dried can, from a photo perspective, just kind of looks like lots of little dots, and then it kind of just gets stuck in your hair, and it just I don't know. Personally,
it does. I've actually made some pretty cool reels where the confetti either hits someone in the eye or gets in their face, and they make it
someone throws face. The cone.
I have had that before, man.
Don't throw your cone full of confetti at the bride or groom. That's a bad one. And I guess the eco confetti on the flip side is different because it floats. Man, that stuff just I don't know. It's it's so light, so it just flutters in the air. I would say that with that eco confetti, everyone gets really heavy-handed with it, and you probably don't have to because everyone's throwing it at the same time with massive handfuls, it literally just turns into a wall of confetti, and you don't really see a whole lot. That's been a little bit of the downside of the eco confetti. So be a little more, you can probably be a little bit more sparingly using it, I guess. But yeah, it's good for the environment too. So, it's all good things.
Maybe we need to dive into this a bit deeper. I think
Maybe we need to go and buy. Maybe we can do this as like a podcast and we'll like record ourselves. We'll go and buy like, all of them. So like eco-confetti, we'll buy some fresh,
mate,
we'll buy
am
some
down
dried,
for, like,
and we'll have a romantic session together, throwing confetti at each other.
Yes, I'm so down to throwing confetti in your face.
That's rude.
Amazing. All right, let's move on to the next one. So, cocktail versus canapes versus formal seating. So this is a pretty cool one. Like I've done a mixture of a lot of weddings, whether it be sit down or cocktail, or like just canapes. Like, to be honest, like I think I am more of a fan of just more of like a cocktail setting, because it's just a little bit more relaxed. Like it's just that little bit less formal, but obviously it's an approach that obviously needs to suit you and your day, your wedding,
and your venue.
In your venue, exactly. So yeah, like even though there's some things that I say I may like prefer, like it always comes down to like what's going to be better for you, and if it suits you more, if it's better for you, then I'm down for that.
Absolutely. And I think the beauty of like most weddings these days, we're getting a mix of it. We're getting all of it, really. Like you're having a cocktail hour post ceremony where everyone's eating canapes and hanging out and drinking the goods, and everyone's relaxing, and then you might come in for your like more formal sit down shared platter meals and things like that. Like it's one of those things where it really does come down to your preference. I don't know. Like for me, from a photo perspective, like it doesn't really change too much. We're
not really recording or taking photos when people are eating anyway. But no. Canapes is a different story. Like canapes outside, like that's pretty cool. I tend to get a lot of like really nice candid moments. Plus, do the old sneaky walk past, quickly grab some canapes, throw it in my mouth, and that's it.
Life's good. Happy vendors that mean full vendors, that's for sure. So yeah, look, at the end of the day, it comes down to preference. I don't really have one that I would rather, but I do think that having a mix of them throughout the day is good. So yeah, including those canapes in cocktail hour post ceremony, and then maybe doing a seated or just hanging out, and keeping it chilled.
Yeah, it comes down to a bunch of different factors. It's hard for us to tell you which one is better and which is a preference, because every wedding is different. Like depends on the amount of guests, and like depends on the venue and where it is, and the logistics of your like caterers, so to speak. So yeah, just have a good think and see what would suit you more. Like what's something that you would more connect to. So having your guests sit down or just having a more cocktail kind of dinner. So completely up to you guys. All right, man, let's go to the next one. The importance of hiring professionals over your mates, brother, sister / cousins doing it instead.
And this is like a loaded question,
it is.
For sure. And look, at the end of the day, I think that it's important to have people around you that are good. And I think it's important to have people around you that you legitimately want there, like not just because it's convenient or because it's easy or because you didn't have to do anything towards it, or because, I have a camera, or I have a video, like I can shoot video, or I can edit videos, or I can plan an event for you. I think it's so important to have people there that legitimately make you happy and bring you joy, and that you actually like what they do. I think there's so many times where, like, at the end of the day, everyone's worried about budget. I understand that. Like, it comes down to budget, but sometimes paying a little extra money for someone that you really want there brings the vibes, makes you happy. It just changes the whole day itself.
Yeah, especially if it's going to cause a bit of stress as well. Like maybe having your brother to, do the ceremony. Act as a celebrant for the day. If he's never done it before, like, yeah, you can save a few bucks there. But, like as we mentioned in previous podcasts with Mr. Adam Sini, right? Like a ceremony is a big part of the day. Like, and a DJ / MC like plays just as an important role. So you really don't want to, like lower like the standards or the wedding and have things necessarily go wrong and in turn like cause undue stress for you. So yeah, just things to think about. Yes, it can be, you can save a couple of bucks, but like what's it doing in the long run?
That's it. And, even I think about this a lot, and it comes when it comes to like some of the like things that I guess people don't always value as much, which is like hair, makeup, and also like florals. Like I feel like a lot of people end up, they really end up doing like flowers themselves, which, is not really something that I think should be done. Like I think you should invest in good flowers, invest in people that know how to style your wedding correctly. And, it doesn't have to be extravagant. It just has to be something small, but I think it definitely makes a massive difference to your day.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. All right. Do you need local photographers, videographers / vendors?
Ooh. I say no. I am like, I think if you want someone, again, this is like just what we chatted about then. If you want someone there, if you love what they do, you will trust them no matter what. Like, I guess from a photo video standpoint, especially, or probably even like sometimes when it comes to like, other vendors as well, like, actually like, especially like your styling and your flowers and maybe even like a coordinator. Like when it comes to like all of us, we are always at some venues and maybe not as like at other venues as much, but I do think like you just need to trust us. And I do think like for me and Tim, we get super excited when we go somewhere new, somewhere like refreshing. For us, creativity is there. We can kind of like do what we want and we're not kind of stuck to the same old ways that we would do things, if that makes sense. So I'm a big fan of, going somewhere new. What do you think?
Yeah, I think it's strange that it comes up because I don't necessarily see that as an issue. Like, like if your photo and video have never shot at a venue before, like why would that be like a barrier in potentially booking them? Like if you trust your photographer and your videographer and you love their work, then allow them to do their job and create that. Like I don't see a detriment of working at somewhere new. Like I look at that as like a sense of excitement. And it's like, of course, if I've never been somewhere, like I'll do my due diligence and, I'll suss out the area and kind of get a bit of a plan to know like where everything is and where I want to be going and, where is the light going to be good at certain times of the day. But I think it more comes down to like choosing the vendor regardless of where they are. Like, do you like their work? Do you vibe with them? Like, I think that has more of an impact and that has more value over if they've shot at a venue before.
That's it. We don't have to worry about like just because you live somewhere doesn't mean you can't go there. Do you know what I mean? Like no one lives on a wedding venue. And, we all like for me, I personally like I'd go from the South Coast, which I shoot in a lot, but I'm always like in the mountains. The other day I was in Bathurst, I go to the Hunter fairly regularly. Same with the Central Coast. Like I go everywhere and I love it. I love changing it up. I love getting in the car and going to new places. I know you're the same, Tim. You go to Mudgee a bit in the Central West, which is awesome. Up to the Hunter as well, down the coast, islands. Like we're everywhere.
Yeah. Like in saying that, it's actually not that often I go to a new venue. Like I feel like I've already been to like venues.
100%. Yeah. Like I feel like it's one of those things. We kind of like shoot one venue and then you're like, people see your work. They love what you've done there. And that's where I guess this comes back to do you need to be local? It's maybe not local, but it maybe change the word from local to familiar, maybe. And, sure, that might make a bit of sense to you when you're booking, but yeah, I don't know. I love going somewhere new. Just love it.
Same. Absolutely same. All right. Ooh,
is this the last question? Maybe I think we're coming.
Yeah, it is. It is.
I feel like we've kept this one for the end.
This one's a bit of a loaded one too. Post wedding blues, mate. Walk us through. Like it just says post wedding blues, so there's no real context here.
This came from a couple who I shot last week, and it was a freaking epic wedding, and I definitely think we'll be getting Chloe on to have a bit of a chat with us about her wedding because it was amazing. And she's definitely on the post-wedding come down at the moment. I actually saw this morning she's like flying to Fiji for her honeymoon. So look, if you she's had like a week and a bit between like the wedding and going on a honeymoon, which I think that probably makes it pretty hard kind of to go from this like huge wedding and like having an exciting time, and then you like kind of like they had a recovery brunch the next day and hung out. And then like after That's cool. It's kind of just like, oh, it's done. And then they've got like a week and a half to like get ready to go on their actual honeymoon. Which, plenty of people have a break between wedding and honeymoon. And, like for me, when I got married, me and my wife, we came home for a couple of days. We unpacked everything. We sorted everything out, had a breathing room. And then we went and had a bit of a mini honeymoon. It was COVID time. So we literally went away for 4 days down the coast because that's all we could do. But
I feel like that's a smart idea. Like we did the opposite where we actually had a 6 a.m. flight the next day. And
you're crazy.
Mate, I did not sleep at all. Like our wedding was pretty wild. There was some wild antics going on.
And if you were Meg last week, you would have only just been crawling into bed at 5:45 in the morning, and you would have been on a plane already, mate. That's hectic.
Yeah, man. it was a rough flight over there. I'm pretty sure I spewed my guts up a couple of times, and Kate's telling me to sort my shit out.
He's regretting all decisions then.
Oh, it was just rough, man. When that limo, because we got a limo to the airport, and it rocked up at 4:30 a.m.
And you've been home for half an hour.
Oh man, this is not good. We made a bad decision here.
Yeah.
So yes, post-wedding blues, especially with the talking about your honeymoon, leave a couple of days.
Leave a couple of days. Get excited for the honeymoon. I think that definitely helps. I also think, and I have seen it a fair bit. So a lot of couples are doing the disposable cameras and things like that on tables and whatnot. I think it's cool. Go grab those cameras, and on the way home, if you've had a wedding away from home or, whatever, go and take those cameras and drop them off, get them printed. And then look at those images, as well. I think that will help with the wedding blues. I send you sneak peeks pretty quickly after your wedding, so that helps as well.
What do you think's the main cause here? I know sneak peeks are huge, that's for sure. But what do you think is a cause of the blues? Do you think it's just the planning process has been a little bit hectic, and then all of a sudden wedding's done and that's it? You're
literally, hey, you're what do we talk about now?
We're married,
Yeah, I think a lot of it is just that surreal feeling of how coming back to all the stuff we chat about today of creating time and space, the day does feel like it goes fast. So, you've planned this whole amazing ceremony, reception, wedding day itself, maybe a recovery brunch, whatever it is the next day. You've had this big high, and you've had this big, it's a lot of emotions leading up to the wedding. There's a lot going on the day as well. And then the come down is just almost like a hangover. If if you've had a lot of drink the night before and the next day you're just ugh, it's mentally you're unloading everything after the wedding. And then you're well, we've been chatting about this for so long. What are we talking about now? What happens next?
Yeah.
And this just goes back to not normal life, but it goes back to life is happening still. Give yourself a new project. I say find something new that you want to do. Keep the vibes rolling while you're freshly married, and still date each other, go out, hang out.
Yeah, that's a big one.
Go out for dinner.
Yeah. My grandma always she gave me some marriage advice, and it's the best advice I've ever had, right? It's have a date once a month, go away for a weekend once every 2 months, and have a week holiday once a year. And man, that has been such solid advice. And my nan's unfortunately not with us anymore, but it's it just really kind of brings it back to the things that are important in life as well. So yeah, we can save this for another podcast, but yeah, I think that's some top advice. Don't just because you're married now, it doesn't mean it's straight back to work life and move on, house, kids. Actually have a think about the reasons why you got married in the first place as well. There was what did you do as before you were married? Before you started planning a wedding, before you got engaged. Have a think about what does life supposed to look like now? So yeah, I think post-wedding blues is it's a bit of a strange one.
Everyone has it though. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. And that's the thing. At the end of the day, everybody has these feelings post-wedding, and they are just to be oh, what now? And that's okay. It happens with everybody.
Yeah. Maybe give us a bit of a buzz, guys. If you've had post-wedding blues, and what did that look like for you? I suppose it's not something that we actually talk about a fair bit. And
we're talking about how we can make your day amazing and epic, and then now we're what happens after the wedding?
Yeah. But no, man, today was great. Those questions were amazing. It's good to get a bit of a mix there. So keep them rolling in, guys. I like a Q&A. We should do Q&A a little bit more often.
yeah, it just keeps it fun and just keeps it, not so specific on anything. Yeah, I guess that is about one part of the day. But yeah, we would love to hear from you guys. We also love that when you leave reviews for us. So make sure you do jump on to wherever you are listening to this podcast. Leave us a quick review. We would love to hear from you. And yeah, jump over to our socials as well and check out what's happening on the podcast. But also you can check out our personal socials too. And see what we are doing on a day-to-day. We are not just doing this podcast. We are also shooting a heck of a lot of weddings at the moment, and it's coming into that end of year busy craziness, which we're already talking about end of year, like in October, which is mental.
We are in prime wedding season at the moment. So yeah, look, obviously we each have our own businesses individually, and it is hectic at the moment. So look, if you guys wanted to see some pretty cool like wedding content, photos and videos, check us out. I'd love to hear from you guys. Like I'm loving having chats with like a couple of guys that DM me on Instagram. Just like, love your work with like the things that you're doing, what's going on. So yeah,
it's been great.
Plug.
And people have been loving the podcast too. We've been getting some reviews from that. Maybe one day we should go through and just like read a couple of the reviews out or something.
But, What about, did we get a 1-star? Did someone give us a 1-star?
Yeah, someone gave us a 1-star on Apple. What a stitch up. And didn't even leave why.
That breaks my heart.
Maybe we're too loose for them. Who knows? But jealousy is real. Who knows?
Yeah,
anyway,
that's right. There'll be some
feedback is good feedback, and we love it. And yeah, we would love to hear from you guys. But that is all from this week, and we hope you all have a great week, and we will speak to you all next week. Bye.
All right.